Hello everyone and welcome back to the Bare Threads. This is another sewing video. So I have made some trousers for my son who is about to turn 4 at the time of filming this video. So I've made him the age 4 trousers from the Newlook 6398 pattern, which is this with its very contemporary styling here. But this is quite a few different things: a jacket, a waistcoat, trousers, shorts, skirt and a top, but they're for woven fabrics. I realised that almost all of my patterns for him are for knits, which just makes sense because that's kind of what is more comfortable and what he's going to wear most, but it was just nice to have something for wovens. And I did make a short and top set for him from some woven fabric that I made a video on a while ago, well, recent-ish. So I decided to make the trousers, which are exactly the same as the shorts but longer. And so I had cut out the shorts part of I traced round and then cut out the shorts part of the pattern pieces before, and I just needed to do the bottom half of the trousers basically so that I could extend them. And I found that quite confusing because of the way that the shorts and the trousers were like in the same pattern piece. And so the shorts kind of right at the bottom for the hem, they like flare out a little bit, but the trousers obviously keep going down. But it was really hard to see where the trousers went down at the point where the shorts like sort of flared out. So that did confuse me. I also confused myself by having to do like a patchwork of fabric. I used all the same fabrics, but I did all the same fabric, but I did have two patchwork pieces together. I made them from this like bluey green check fabric, and it has white and red lines going across. I don't know what this is, but it's kind of like, it's not super thick or heavy, but it feels like it could be like upholstery fabric possibly. I had it in my stash for ages, and I used to buy like random fabrics without knowing what they were all the time, and a lot of times they were like upholstery or like odd fabrics, thinking that I was going to be really cool and do something really like interesting, and actually it just never really worked. I like the checkness of it, and I made myself a skirt which I'm pretty sure was the Liesl & Co everyday skirt, and I actually think that I did a pretty good job of sewing that skirt. It's just that this fabric was wrong for it, and I just never wore the skirt because it just like hung weirdly. Like, I think the fabric was just too like heavy or stiff, or like has too much structure or something, I don't really know. So I decided to unpick it. I unpicked it and then I kind of laid out the fabric pieces. They weren't as big as I was hoping they would be, and these trouser pattern pieces are quite long because they are the age 4 ones. They're actually a little bit annoyingly, they're too long for him at the moment. And it was the length that I was missing, so that's why I had to patchwork in some of the smaller pieces, which is why it's annoying that they're too long for him, because I probably didn't need to add this on to the bottom. You can probably see where the patchwork pieces are just because the white lines no longer like match up at all. On the front I didn't need to add too much onto the bottom. On the back I had to add a bigger chunk, and on this side I actually had to put 2 pieces together before then adding it onto the length of the trouser. There is also a tiny little bit which I think is hidden in the crotch where I didn't have enough width for that one pattern piece. Where's it gone? It's kind of hard to show, but maybe you can see where the white lines just don't join up properly anymore. But yeah, the patching it together made it so much more complicated to cut out. It always does. And it just seems like such a great way to use up existing fabric and like remnants of fabric, but it honestly can make it really complicated and confusing. And I kept like sewing the sort of patches of the bits of fabric together wrong. So not when I was actually constructing the trousers, but just when I was actually constructing the fabric to then cut out the trouser pieces. I kept sewing them together wrong, and then I had to unpick them, and it was very annoying. Once I actually got the pieces cut out, the construction of the trousers is pretty simple. There is just like 2 pieces, well 4, there's the front and the back, and then you cut each one out twice. And then it has an elasticated waist, which is just you create the channel for the waistband and then insert elastic through it. and then you just hem the bottom of the trousers. The instructions are pretty clear, but there's only like 3 or 4 steps for making them, so they're pretty simple. Yeah, apart from the confusion I had when I was tracing out the pattern pieces, and then the confusion that I had when I was creating the pieces of fabric through my weird patchworking, that's not very neat. It was a fairly simple project, just took longer than it needed to because of all the extra confusion that I added to it. You can also see that like I didn't pattern match at all, so like they're like excruciatingly close to matching on the front, the white lines going across, but they're not quite lined up. And then on the back they're really far out. I didn't even attempt that because I obviously didn't have very much fabric, and I really have only attempted pattern matching once possibly. So this wasn't the Garment Kids clothes and not the place to be bothering with pattern matching, I think. Like, they just don't care. So I didn't bother, but it is a bit like painful because it is so close for the white lines, and it's really like quite obvious. But we'll live with it, it's fine. So yeah, those are the Newlook 6398 trousers. Let me know what you think in the comments, and give me a like and a subscribe.